Morning, Vince.
Howdy. What time is
How
it
are
there?
you? Huh?
What time is it where you are?
7 a.m.
Oh, okay. Oh well, yeah, good.
And
Yeah.
you?
It's 10 p.m.
Yeah. So how was your day? Good.
Uh Good, yeah.
That last meeting was a bit of a challenge for me.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It was really strange. And this morning I just it's like the body woke up and the body is doing its own thing and I'm just kind of along for the ride. It's kind of curious. Yeah, it was challenging for me in some really weird ways. I probably need to schedule some time to get and chat with you one on one again because yeah, some challenging things. Well, it was really touched because people went to some really honest places, you included, and I just for some reason I just could not. I wasn't there, and it's like really questioning. Yeah, it was really challenging, difficult,
right.
and yeah, that's it. So
Well, I'd really love to hear more about it. Yeah, I found it for me. It was oh, it stood
yeah,
out. It was a highlight of a meeting. It was something
yeah,
really wonderful for me. Yeah.
yeah. I know. I could tell that was for several people. And for some reason, there was this feeling of being an outsider just watching it, could not
Oh,
access it.
really? Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah. Brought up a
Well,
lot of
that
questions for sure.
yeah, that certainly opens up a few possibilities, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it appears so. So, yeah.
It's
And
it's it's a good example though of the continuation of the always more, always further kind of thing, and it's kind of weird, isn't it, that we can the more open we get, the more stuff turns up and that opens up more. It just like it's recursive or it's exponential. Is I like exponential. The way it grows, it kind of realization heaps on realization.
I remember somewhere in a memory of hearing something at some point, it's that the more that you can experience in either direction, bliss or depression, whichever, the opposite ends of that spectrum, the more you can experience in that direction, the more it increases your ability to experience it in the opposite direction. So, that sounds kind of like what this is like. And I mean, there have been times when I have felt that way, that just the heart was just blown open and just like so, but for some reason it wasn't there. And there was a curiosity about uh, this actually struggling with that
Hmm.
and this feeling one of the topics is because it was so wonderful. Everybody was discussing how, about helping everybody else wake up or all the others. And it took me to this place, and it was really curious for me. I've been looking at it for ever since then, is about why there was so much compassion here for those that are in that spot where they're so frustrated and, trying so hard, um, and everyone trying to point them and spending so much energy and effort and caring and compassion and kindness and support towards trying to support them, and yet they still feel like there's a wall there, or they're blocked, or they're just that they're not there. And what's unusual, not even okay, what has been noticed is that in several of the meetings that there was that where I could feel, I didn't think it was me, but I could feel that perhaps the person that we were focusing attention on, um, was actively, I don't know, in some ways actively sabotaging trying to wake up or something. It's almost like they were already awake, but they didn't want to accept it or something. I couldn't really tell what the feeling was, but I had a sense of knowing that there was an energy within, like one of them, especially, there was an energy in her that is just like, I'm the gatekeeper here. I don't care how hard y'all talk to me. I don't care how hard you try to point me and support me. I'm not doing it.
Mm.
But not a conscious, energy,
Yeah,
just an
yeah, yeah,
energy
yeah.
that's like a gatekeeper there. And then I think immediately in that same meeting towards the end, this one lady that finally spoke, and then in her, I could hear a completely opposite of the frustration because so many people had been so kind and supportive and trying to get her there that she focused on how there were times that she felt like she wanted to just not live anymore. And I could feel the depth of that, which really kind of took me aback a little bit because it was kind of like the depths of this human being just not wanting to live because there was this something missing. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
to me, it appeared that there was this huge compassion for all of those people that are trying so hard and pushing so hard for so long a time. And although it's easy for me to access a particular space within this that told me, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. And when, life will guide you if you let it, and just accept that you're not letting it, or whatever, an acceptance type of thing. It was easier for me to find that within me, which there's a huge gratitude for that because that eased the frustration and the suffering. And there is not much or near any, I don't even know if there's any suffering anymore. There are times when, of course, there's not a great feeling. There's just within minutes ago, uh, understanding that, or a realization that probably what a shitty mother I was, but then realizing, yes, but because there is that recognition that this is just what's happening. All this
Mm.
chaos and all these bodies and all this life happening is just what's happening. There are no people, no one's doing anything. That's great. But yet these thoughts in the mind were just like
Yep.
poop, pow, 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 coming on how, well, of course, your conditioning was such that this is what was happening, and this is what, and it was all of that just rushing in so you could see it all. Um, which even though a part of you knows, it's just it's still there.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think I think during that meeting, I'm not sure what was going on with it here, but because, like I said, there are times when I could join in, and that bliss was absolutely beautiful and wonderful, and I was so happy for everyone there, and I could feel it and share it, and it
Mm.
was a great gift. I'm very touched by it, just about what everybody's shared and spoke. But also realizing that for some reason that just wasn't appearing in this,
Yep, yep.
which I
Yeah.
didn't, and it was okay. I just took it as, well, it's this, this is, but
Mm.
then allowing it to just be there. So it's
Yep.
kind of, it's kind of a
So,
lot of weird things going in.
yeah, so it seems like you were presented with the situation that you could look at it. I mean, it occurred to me that obviously it would be, at an intellectual description, would be that it was identification that was active, that you described as feeling outside of, not
Yep.
not right. So your two kind of possible ways of seeing that is, one of them is that you recognize what you just said, that it's just there and it's okay, and it's it's neither here nor there. It's a bit irrelevant in a way. It'll just pass because of that attitude towards it. That's a perfectly fine attitude. The other aspect is that when you're ready, and which may or may not be there. It may be afterwards when you consider it, or it may be next time when that pops up for you. But when you're ready, you may well be able to recognize that there's some belief, that there's some story of comparison going on.
I seem to resonate with that one.
Mm. But you know the way you've just expressed it suggests to me that you're able to see it in a good way. You know, you're able to see it objectively. You can describe what happened, and no doubt you're re-experiencing some of the feelings when you do that description, and that's processing it. Right? So you're not saying it's wrong, although that might be a story floating around in the background, that there's something not quite right, that you feel separate, crazily enhanced by the fact that you know what that experience is like, that you've had that experience.
Yeah.
And for some reason, this time, whether it was the people, the way the people were presenting, or the intensity of the presentation, or some aspect of it, had you feeling like you were outside of it. See, it's a weird one, isn't it? Outside of it, it's a kind of a
Right,
strange, yeah,
right. I think there's been that's why there's so much of a curiosity. And there was that curiosity going on at the time it was happening. But just
yeah. So
um
if I am imagining that if we could replay it, it would be really great for you to say something in the middle of it all.
interesting. Yeah,
Mm.
interesting. That never occurred. I
Yeah,
mean, it did occur to me to speak up and say something, which I did. I was trying to express, but um, it, of course, it didn't connect. I didn't feel like it connected with, but here's the interesting thing about that, because I think I spoke up and was saying something about compassion for all those people who are not, that are awake and caught in such a loop of frustration about not waking up, and
mm.
and just almost like, what does it take? My God, I've given everything. I've tried and people, they just are so much at that point. And not everyone, but most of the people that are there to be supportive are so kind and
Yeah, I get that. I
compassionate.
mean, I've come across lots of people over the years who are like exactly like you say. You know, it seems like they're actively sabotaging
Yeah,
seeing things. But
yeah.
of course, it's not a conscious thing. It's,
Of
nobody
course,
does
yeah.
it on
That's the
purpose.
reason I would never want to say that or bring that up. That's kind of like that old thing about
But
when people
sometimes it
tell
can be
you,
helpful too. It's pretty good to be
well,
confronting sometimes.
I suppose that this is actually not confident enough in actually being that direct
Yeah,
and honest after
that's
spending a lifetime of suppressing
yes,
and repressing and keeping your mouth shut, and like, who do you think you are? That's the
yes,
big
yeah.
question, because who do you
Oh, and
think
they're
you are?
deeply ingrained,
That's
aren't they? Those
and
things. Yeah,
then that there's after a lifetime of that, it just seems so so like,
yeah.
why would I at one
Impolite.
time,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, who am I to whatever. So I did try, actually. I don't even remember now what I said, but I did speak up and actually
I,
on behalf of those.
yes, I must have missed it as well because I don't remember
Yeah,
what you were
which
speaking
is
about. Yeah.
interesting. And that meeting isn't published, is it? That wasn't
No, that
published,
one's not. No.
because I was thinking I should go back and listen to that.
I
And
can send you the link for it. I do have a recording of it, but it's
yeah,
only available to those who
yeah,
attend. And I asked
yeah,
about sharing it with somebody else I'm guiding, and
right,
Yeah,
right.
but
And
otherwise,
so,
no.
and
It's
I
yeah,
didn't think about that, but now that you're mentioning it, that might be a good thing for to go back and rewatch and see what does
yes.
um
It'd be
what
interesting to
does
see that.
arise.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And it probably won't have the same effect it had the first time,
Sure.
but you'll know what part it was about.
Yeah,
You know, it'll have it, so because things have already rearranged themselves a bit since then. Yeah,
yeah.
the fact that you're interested in it, that immediately changes it. Yeah,
Yeah, I was interested in it at the time and just
yeah. So one of the things to appreciate, the people, the other people that were there that were how can I put it, the awake ones,
yeah. I
been
want
that
that
been
were
that way for a while,
yeah,
right? And so
yeah,
the newness of it for you is it.
yeah,
As I say, it's a constant thing. It just never stops, and
yeah,
and over time, you know, you go to deeper and deeper levels, more subtle levels, less able to talk about them, but you know that certainly changes things. One of the things I see when that kind of thing goes on, and why I'm really happy to be involved, for two reasons. One of them is that it just feels so good. It's just what an amazing feeling it is in the body to be so open-hearted
yeah,
and transparent, you know, spontaneous, whatever, you know, whatever you want to call it. It's just it feels great. That's one. The other one is that what I imagine happens is for those who are still seeking, it kind of normalizes things. It kind of shows them that the people that are awake are still human beings, and, but more so perhaps than those who are fully conditioned and or still suffering under the conditioning, so to speak, of a lifetime of being polite and how you should be and so on. Yeah.
that that's so interesting. I find it extremely amusing and actually I'm very welcoming and sort of happy about the fact that I could see all the sides of it. That there were those there, but there were also some there that I suspect were on a different, you know, not that I really tried to pay attention or anything. It's just that I had this feeling that I might not be the only one, you know. But so it was kind of one of those, instead of just being totally in it, it's like I was above it and looking at it and seeing it from, and actually, although I couldn't get in it and identify it with you guys, I have been there before, so I knew that it was very genuine and real. And I have, there's an understanding or recognition of just how beautiful it is. Yes. And possibly a little bit of anger there that I wasn't going there.
Yeah, yeah, you were missing out. Yeah.
Yes. But then also knowing that, yeah, it's kind of funny. It was like it was just a different place. It
Mm.
was just a different place that I was. And I really wasn't even thinking about whether or not anybody, I just kind of, it's interesting just talking about it. So, yeah, it's really interesting. Uh, it just, it does go to show you though that it's all right there in front of us all the time. That's it. So yeah, if you,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, thank you. And I was very grateful to be there and be a part of it. But like I said, the part of me kind of angry because like, damn it, I want to be there too, knowing that it is possible because it has. it has happened,
Yeah,
on
yeah,
numerous occasions and does happen, but it just wasn't then. It's almost like, well, it's like there's something else that was taking.
yeah. Something was in the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just glad for some reason when I did try to speak up and it just wasn't, it, I will say this, there was a part of me that knew, okay, this is saying something that is contrary to where the energy or the flow of the meeting is going. But yet it felt very genuine and authentic for this to be expressing that. And there was a curiosity about, I wonder why that was coming out, or maybe just amused, or not even amused. It wasn't amused. A curious. It's all I can say. So, and maybe that doesn't even sound right, but it's like a noticing that that was very genuine, and that there was something, some kind of an energy, or some kind of an expression, or something, a movement of some sort that just needed or wanted or felt like it had to verbalize something.
Mm,
It's weird, isn't it?
mm,
Almost like a
yeah,
separate person there,
yeah.
a different Pam.
Yeah, well, I'll send you the link and I'll go back and have another look at it myself. I'm now curious to see it from a different perspective than
Yeah.
just being inside this body. Yeah. 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 Well, thank you for speaking up.
Oh, yeah. I was
It's
glad I
good
got the
value.
opportunity to.
Yeah. Yeah. So I always imagine with any meeting, I imagine that the old conditioning kind of sneaks in also for me, but less so perhaps than for most people. And the common one is people go, "Well, I've been speaking for long enough. I don't want to take up everybody's time," kind of thing. So they get into fully identifying at that moment when those kind of things come up. But I suspect that there's a lot of other politeness things that turn up that we don't
Yeah.
realize. We don't see them come, and yet they still control our behavior. And
Yeah.
so the thing with these meetings is it's really invited to transgress that kind of stuff. If you go, oh, I shouldn't say anything. If you're thinking I shouldn't say anything because it's not appropriate, then say it.
Mhm.
That's the time to say it. If you think,
Mhm.
say, I think you're full of bullshit to somebody. That's good stuff. Yeah. Gives us something
Well,
to talk about. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
The thing is, if somebody takes offense, that's great. That's something to work with. That's identification, isn't it?
I'm actually glad you said that because I couldn't put words to it when I was trying to express it, but that's kind of exactly like what was happening is there. I, this is totally opposite of what everybody's saying, but I want to say it. It's important to this.
Yep.
And although, no one else might have agreed with it or resonated with it or thought anything about it whatsoever, then um, okay. But there was that feeling in there.
Mm,
Yeah, kind of a little
yeah.
bit of whatever that is. Yes, it's like that
Yeah.
of satisfaction that it did speak up and say anything,
Yep.
whatever. And like I said, I can't even remember the words. Didn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah. Yeah. That's okay. Yeah.
I didn't say it was bullshit.
Yeah. Well,
I
you
didn't say
can,
that,
but
but
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
And
but but
even bringing it up, days later, it's still good value. It's still,
yeah,
it still
yeah,
realigns things, gives you a
yeah.
chance to see what's going on. Yeah.
So apparently a little bit of a different space or place than um and curious about the terrain here,
Yeah. Yeah. See, I don't imagine anybody actually feels exactly what I feel. Everybody's got their own version kind of
Yeah.
thing. Now some things they overlap enough for us to be able to share kind of things. So when we're talking about a sense of awe, kind of everybody's got their own version, but they know what it's what's in common is the connection to that. So even though your sense of awe might be different to my sense of awe, when we're talking about a sense of awe, what comes up in me and what comes up in you might be quite different, yet we know what we're talking about. We can share that
Yeah.
together. So I don't imagine anybody can really, like everybody expressing what they were expressing. It seemed like they were all saying the same thing, but they weren't. They're all saying their version of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to continue this discussion at some point because as
Sure.
more and more comes out, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll have to
Okay.
follow
Yeah.
up on that.
Definitely. Yeah. And maybe you can, if it seems appropriate, write something down or dictate something.
Yeah.
Just explore it. Explore it. Yeah.
That was the first urge that this morning when this woke up, this body and got up is the urge to just sit down and dictate a very long
Yeah.
uh, about what was there and what had come up and what was seen and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So sometimes that happens. So that yeah.
Jan, tell us what's in the road to awakening for you. What are your blockages? Do you have any? Are you awake?
all all blockage. I I have these thoughts of getting caught in thoughts. I have that feeling now, feeling of lack. Oh, I haven't got it. I haven't. Why is it that I haven't got it yet?
Right,
Something is
right.
something
Yeah.
is missing, or there's an agitation and a frustration related to that.
Right. Okay. Can you really sink into this feeling of something missing? Can you hook into that so that it becomes your whole experience that you lack something? There is an empty space. That should be filled. There is a hole. There is something missing. There is something to be gained. Can you really get into that?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. And can you see how in itself, not what it points to, but the feeling itself, the experience of that something missing is absolutely complete in itself. It's the best feeling of lack you could have. It's a great feeling of something missing. It becomes your whole experience that there is something missing. And we're not talking about the missing thing, not we're talking about what is missing. We're talking about the feeling that there's something missing. That in itself is really full, really complete. You're not half feeling that something is missing, are you?
No. It's full and
Yeah.
it's uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But can you appreciate the fullness of that experience?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you imagine that you'll have to abandon some of that experience in order to focus on what is missing?
I didn't understand.
Sorry?
I didn't understand. Can you say that again?
Yes. So you're experiencing the fullness, the completeness of that empty feeling. That empty feeling is your full experience, right?
Yes.
Now when you focus on what might be missing, can you appreciate that you'll have to give up some of this feeling, some of the fullness of the emptiness, some of the fullness of the feeling that something is lacking? You'll give that up in order to focus on what might be lacking.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah?
I need to focus on something. Yes.
Yeah. If you focus on the fullness of the feeling that something is missing, the fullness of that feeling, you've got it.
Yeah.
If you divert over to the story about what it is that might be missing, you miss it.
Mhm.
You actually
Yes.
create something
Mm.
to be
Yeah.
missing.
That's what I noticed, that I get carried away by the story and it keeps on
Yeah,
repeating.
yeah, yeah. So let's say you have a story. I'm going to introduce a story for you right now into your head,
Mm.
right? And that story is about pink elephants, right? Elephants that are pink, right? So can you picture a pink elephant,
Yes.
right? Now, forget about the pink elephant. Think about the fact that there is a thought present. Can you experience the the presence of the thought that contains a story of pink elephants?
Yes. An image.
Yes, no, the image is what it's about. The image is what the thought is about,
Mhm.
right? Let's say the thought itself is a wireframe structure that carries the picture of a pink elephant, right? So the metaphor is that the thought is a wireframe structure that has turned up, except it's not a wireframe structure at all. It's a thought. But you're focusing on the presence of a thought. It is irrelevant that it's about pink elephants. It is a thought that's turned up,
Yep. Yes.
right? So can you start to imagine a trend that I'm offering you, that there is the fullness of the feeling that something is lacking. There is the fullness of the presence of a thought.
Yes.
In both cases,
Mhm.
we're saying, oh, there is a story there, but I'm not worried about what the story's about. I'm interested in the fact that a story is here. You know, so you can use another metaphor. You can say, well, I have a book. I own a book. I own a book about pink elephants, but I'm not going to open the book. I'm going to leave it closed, and I'm just going to appreciate that I've got a book. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like to be awake. That's the difference. If you're not awake, you're going to get sucked into what's inside the book.
Mm.
You're going to be fascinated by pictures of pink elephants. But I want you to shut the book and just appreciate the fact that there is that story. It exists. I like the expression on your face. So you're starting to get a glimpse of, you're starting to get a
Yes.
feel for
Yes.
something?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, then there are more stories on top of stories.
Yes, absolutely. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Every story is in fact like one of those animals that have got 55 young clinging to it as it walks along. Yeah. Every story has got stories upon stories upon stories all there. Yeah. But it's the existence of the story that gives
Yeah, one
rise
of the
to a, yeah, go on.
yeah, one of those stories is I don't qualify for this.
That's a good story, isn't it? What's the
Yes.
cover of the book like? Is it brown? Is it a hardcover?
It's hardcover black.
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, right. So you can be a story, you see, it can be a story about anything. Pink elephants, unicorns, fairies, I this, I that, I something else. It's irrelevant what the story is. It's the fact of the existence of the story that you can allow your focus to go on. And when you see that,
Yeah.
you can also then allow the body to express its reaction to that.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. It's the same feeling, but the stories are different. Sometimes it's unworthiness, sometimes
Yes.
not qualified, sometimes not enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they may be interesting, or actually they could be totally boring. Really, some of those are really boring stories. I'm not qualified. I don't deserve it. I haven't got what it takes. They're boring stories. They're totally
Yeah.
irrelevant in a way, but they exist. We acknowledge that they exist. We can't stop them from turning up, but what we can do is shift our attention to the fact that they're there and be uninterested in what they're about.
Mhm.
So when you get carried away by one, sooner or later, and this is I'm talking literally here, sooner or
Mhm.
later, you will go, I got carried away by that story. You'll see that it happened. It
Mhm.
might be straight away, it might be in a minute, or it might be in an hour, or it might be the next day, or next week, or it might be in a dream. Who knows? But sooner or later, you're going to go, I was carried away. I
Mhm.
got lost in that,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. It's just what happens. But the fact that you realize it, if you can really appreciate that, I saw it, that will encourage that to happen quicker and more frequently.
It
And
happened as Pam was talking. I I just believed that I have nothing exciting to share. I just have a very normal day-to-day life, and I don't remember even what happens.
yeah,
When
me
it being
too. Me
asked, I have
too.
nothing to share.
Yeah,
I felt that lack then. I
yeah,
felt that, yeah.
yeah. When this meeting first started and Pam asked me how I was or how was my day, she said, and I went, oh, do I want to try and remember what I did today and how it was? It's kind of, so I just go, oh, well, it's good. Yeah.
I go
Because,
the opposite direction and say it's bad. I have nothing.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a tricky one, like life goes on like that. It's very ordinary for me. Nobody around me knows I'm awake. It just doesn't, they don't even know what it is. Well, I mean, I guess nobody knows what it is unless they experience it. And then it'll be their version. But no, it just doesn't even occur to people. When somebody asked me the other day, come and do something or other, and I thought, I said to them, oh no, I've got a meeting, and they said, what's the meeting about? Well, that gets me. I don't know what to say with
Mm.
that. Yeah,
And on top of this, I have these fearful thoughts as well, that feels real, that if I awaken or if some shift happens, then it's going to be a disaster.
Yes.
Relationship
Yep.
and
Yeah.
being able to manage life it will be affected, and I don't know how I'm going to
Yeah. Yeah.
manage. Those
Now,
fearful
see,
thoughts are also there.
what I find it real. See, this is exactly the stuff that Pam was talking about earlier. Now, that's that unconscious blocking that comes up that says, I know all about this, but I'm not going to go there. What is going on now? I try and tell you, I try and show you, I try and literally be a role model for you that says everything's going to be fine when you wake up. You'll have no trouble managing things, operating, and all the rest of it. But you believe your story more than you believe my story.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I get it. And it is not a case of right or wrong or anything like that. It is a case that there is this idea that you'll give up control and bad consequences might happen.
Mhm.
Is that the kind of disaster you're thinking of, or is it something else?
Yeah, it's exactly same. If I totally let go and let's say I start crying or acting crazy or not being able to manage day-to-day life, then how would I face people? How would I manage my family?
Yeah, yeah,
Those kind of
exactly. Yeah,
thoughts.
I get that. Yeah, yeah. So you see how I am in these meetings, how I'm so easily taken to tears of joy usually. You can see that, but that's not the way I am out there. That's not the way I am with other people. I mean, I do sometimes get a bit teary, but they don't know it. It's not that
Mhm.
I hide it, but it's
Mhm.
not appropriate to show it. If I showed that to my wife, she'd say, "What's wrong?"
Mhm.
I imagine, just from lots of experience with her.
But
I
that's
know
not
how,
in your control either, right? It may happen that
yeah,
in a
but
meet.
it's not control. It's that what is appropriate just seems to come to the front.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I don't have any trouble going to the supermarket and shopping. I don't have any trouble talking to the cashier or whatever if that happens. Although I must say I generally do the self-checkout thing. But uh, I mean, my wife and I, we went to tea with a group of people last night. I had no trouble having a conversation with them. And they were talking about, at some point, they were talking about stuff that I have very little interest in, the football and that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I could still appreciate the skill of some of those players.
Mhm.
But don't ask me the rules of the game. I would have no idea because I'm not particularly interested in it. So you do learn to live in two worlds. We see we and that's another thing that and it's kind of again it extends on stuff that Pam and I were talking about earlier, and that is that the longer you experience this, the more it will change in a way that's quite difficult to talk about. It's because it's not obvious. It's more subtle. So certainly in the beginning, you might go, well, it feels like I'll just break down and cry the whole time,
Mhm.
or I'll get really, really angry and start busting stuff up or
Mhm.
whatever. the mind comes up with those as stories that are not quite distinct. They're much, because it's operating, it's pulling fear triggers, and so it's better to be a bit vague than to be really specific. But yes,
That anger happened. It's kind of angry outbursts, which is completely opposite of how I used to be. Used to be a nice person, controlled, and this was totally opposite against
mm,
my parents, who are bedridden, and I'm taking care of them. Against also my wife. So those things happened, but like you said, I am also learning a little bit of skills to be able to recognize it within me, but not having to express it,
yes,
or get some space from it.
mm, yeah. So that's what a really big one here is. I want to tell you that you will accumulate the experience of acting appropriately without having to control it. You will experience, you just know the consequences.
Mhm.
And as a result of that, you'll find that it won't be an issue. It's not an issue of control. It's it's not that you have control and you're going to give up control. It's that you never actually had control. It was an illusion that you had control. Yet that illusion can be really useful, but it is an illusion. It's not, there's no actual control there. Even when you plan and make decisions, it's a tricky one to see, but even when that's going on, it is still just an expression of conditions, circumstances. So
Mm.
it's not like you're going to run out of control. It's not like you're going to lose control. But in order to what will replace the illusion of control a lot is the actual appreciation that circumstances are what produce certain outcomes. And when experience shows you that you can drop the illusion of control and things still work out, then you relax. You let it go. So it's that accumulation, that adding on little experiences, right? Here's a classic one. Just watch yourself when you finish this meeting and you get up and you walk away. Just watch how the body stands up and one foot moves in front of the other and you walk and you didn't even realize you were doing it. That's a classic example of how things actually happen. You know not to bump into the coffee table when you walk across the room. You automatically go around it. You don't have to think, oh, watch out, don't bump into that. It just happens. And yet if you look back and you say, well, I walked across the room and I avoided bumping into the coffee table. Well, that's not, you didn't. Walking across the room happened and avoiding the coffee table, well, the coffee table didn't even feature. You walked around the coffee table without even thinking about the coffee table. Everything works out perfectly. You know, you've learned. You've got a lifetime of experience for that stuff. Except part of that experience is a shitty thing that says, oh, well, that's because you're clever that you went around the coffee table and didn't bash your shin on the way. So my suggestion to you is develop the ability to see the arrival of a story as the arrival of a story and not focus on what the story is about. Right? When you feel that something is lacking, there's a story, right? In this case, you can go further than just see the arrival of a story and imagine a book cover and you're not opening it, but go as far as to go, there is a physical response to that story. And I'm going to immerse myself in the experience of that rather than what caused that, which was the content of the story. So
Yeah, now there is a story. I'm noticing that the story, now there is a story there. And the story is about shame of having expressed this.
Yeah.
Expressed the lack.
Yes.
Which thought says, which could have been avoided if you have really looked.
Yeah. And some stories have more weight. They feel heavier than other stories.
Yes.
Without focusing on what the story is about, the arrival of that story, and there's the arrival of a story about shame, and your body will experience a feeling of shame without even getting into what the shame is about, where it come from, what it's about. That's just the experience in the body and the presence of the story. And this breaks that connection with the identification of somebody having a story turn up. And we experience things in the body that sometimes don't make sense. Just the realization of something, the release that comes with that realization certainly can bring tears up here. Can you appreciate that each story that turns up, the metaphor would be that every story has a unique book cover. The story's inside the book, but you're going to focus on the cover. So the details of that each story is going to come with its own weight, how heavy it is, how serious it is, how humorous it is, how much we depend on it, all sorts of things that are going to give it unique characteristics. Each story will have unique characteristics. Not what the story is about, the container of what it's about, the thought itself, the story itself. from the outside after waking up, nobody will know that you're a different person. It's an internal experience that will be different. You'll still be good at what you're good at. You'll still be bad at what you're bad at, unless you practice a lot. Your personality will still be the same. Yeah. But say, here's a really interesting one that happens. What you experience in yourself, you'll extrapolate to other people. I think my father was 72 when he died. And for most of my life, I saw him as a big bully. But for the last couple of years, he was a little child. He was innocent and a child. He never ever learned how to talk about his feelings. And so what happens is when you experience this stuff, the compassion you have for yourself will spread to others, will spread to people around you. So you'll stop seeing problems and you'll just see conditions.
That's a coincidence that my dad is also exactly same character. And through him now, totally incapable of doing anything by himself,
Mm,
still hasn't changed a bit. And I feel I feel I feel anger and rage, and at times I told him that I'll just leave if you behave like this. But then at the end, after that passes, I still go back and do whatever is needed.
mm,
So that teaches me a great deal
yes.
to be just human. And I think about my own old age as well.
Mm,
And it just shows me how that's the only fact that we are certain of: dying and illness and death and all the difficulties that accompany that.
mm,
Same with my mom as well. So it's a laboratory for me to build resilience and
yes.
compassion, I feel.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't downplay the difficulty of it for one moment, but it is also a fantastic opportunity. Yes. Yeah. And it's a how can I put it? It's a more intense adventure.
Yes.
And sometimes that intensity can feel a bit too much.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yes.
we cope with it because we have no option. It just happens. There
Yeah.
we are. And you can appreciate that certain stories, especially like ones like shame, those kind of stories are pretty deeply embedded and they keep coming back. They keep coming up. They
Yes.
seem to
Yes.
be resistant to change.
Yes.
And until we see if you can use that metaphor of the story being what's inside the book, and the story itself, all you've got contact with is the cover of the book. You're not going to open it and read the story. You're just noticing that it exists. Once you get the ability to do that, and practice is what will allow it to happen better, then you start to look forward to these things that turn up, because it gives you an opportunity to go, oh, okay, I didn't realize it had that flavor about it. And you'll start to see connections to other things that are hanging off that story. So each
Yes.
story not only has other stories connected to it, but some of them are foundations that other stories rely on for existence. And when they are seen through, the ones that rely on them will also fall away. So it can be a little bit like a row of dominoes falling. When you tip the first one and it hits the next one and then the next one, and then, or off it goes down the line and they all fall. Well, that kind of effect can happen because of those foundational stories. So you know there's no self. You've got that one pretty clear, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yet, in spite of knowing that, there's a whole lot of stuff that turns up as if there was a self still there.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And so as you start to see them turning up, and you focus on the cover rather than the content, all of a sudden they start to have less effect than they used to have. So what you'll find also is that you'll start to recognize how any particular story had a spin-off effect,
Mm.
and that will get short-circuited. You won't have that spin-off. It'll just drop off once you start to see the fact that it's the story, the book cover, the story container that you're focused on, not on what it's about. And doing it and not doing it, perfectly fine. Again, we don't have control. So when we can see that that's what we want to do and we start to get the hang of it, it'll happen more and more. But it won't happen every time, you know. Sometimes we'll get lost in a story. Well, the getting lost in a story is just another story. Even though you're describing an experience, right? It's just a story that describes your experience.
Mm.
And so that has its own flavor, its own weight, its own particular book cover, if you like. So there are no exceptions, not a single exception. Everything is just what it is when it turns up, and we don't even know what that is. We only have our own interpretation of it, and that is shaped and colored by our conditioning, by our experience, by our DNA. It's just what it is. So when I say focus on the container of the story and not what the story is about, that will excite the illusion of control again. That you'll go, well, I that sounds good. I'm going to do that.
Yes.
Right? But that again is not what actually happens. What actually happens is that it happens or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, something else will happen, and that is that it'll arrive later or not. If it doesn't, you won't know. If it does, you'll know it was later. And then you celebrate the fact that it's turned up, the fact that you realize it, the fact that you can shift your focus to the container and from the container into the response in the body of that turning up that happened.
Then it's like no place to stand, no place for me.
Perfect. Yes, exactly. This might seem like a stretch for me to say this. It might seem like I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. It's a literal thing. There is never anything wrong here and now. Wherever you are, whatever your situation is, you could have an elephant sitting on you and squashing you. And if you're in the here and now, that's okay. Always suffering is about the future. It's always a projection into some mythical place. But what is actually going on for you right now is just what it is. It seems crazy, and it's something that experience will show you. But even if you're experiencing pain, if you get into what are the characteristics of this pain, this sensation that I'm calling pain, once you get into it, it it feels different. Not going to say it's going to feel pleasant, but it's not going to be described as pain. You might describe it as heat, you might describe it as pressure, you might describe it as weight, you might describe it as all sorts of actual sensation type descriptions, but it'll be okay. It'll be just what it is. So if you say, I feel shame, and you actually go looking for what you're feeling ashamed of, why you're feeling shame, it's not in the present. It's never what's going on right now. It's always going to be in a story about something. And so what we tend to do, and our conditioning does, is we want to take it into us as a characteristic and say, it's in me. I am a shameful person. Well, what a load of rubbish. What does a shameful person look like? Tell me, describe to me how that can be experienced without a story that goes off somewhere into the past or the future. It can't exist. And by focusing on the container of that story and not the story itself, breaks a connection that used to exist
Mhm.
and will change your experience of it. And how much of this that you take in, how much of this changes your experience, we don't know. We'll have to wait and see. And I have to say that it seems like it's another story, but it seems like when we get to the right to the edge of this waking up stuff, and it seems like we are intentionally sabotaging the last step, that we just are afraid, or we just won't, for some reason, jump over the edge of the cliff, take the last step to waking up. I have ultimate patience with that. It's a stupid thing to say. I don't. It just, but it never I never feel impatient about it. Yeah. And then I remember, Jesus, I did that for 45 years. So how could I judge somebody else who's suffering, experiencing resistance to that final step? That just and then I just go, wow, I love you. I love all of you guys. I just do. It's yeah. It feels like my heart can send out tendrils and connect with each of you, all of you together. It's just great. Yeah. Well, thank you, Jan.
Thank you very much, Vince. Thank you.
Leonard, how are you?
Quite fine. Um, Actually, I think I had told you before that I was reading this book on the 10 fetters, and just out of curiosity, I tried one of these exercises, which was about finding sentences that could trigger a very strong physical response. But one rule for this exercise was that it should not be an interpretation, but more or less something actual. Um, just describing in a very neutral way what is or was the situation. And then um, I went back from Berlin to my city, and the train was delayed for 1 hour. So I had to wait, and I just noted down like all the events in my life that had been difficult or horrible or, yeah, painful. And when I arrived home, I tried to make sentences out of them and see what happens. And then actually, I started with my childhood, and there were, I mean, when I was a child, I had this thing of believing that my father didn't love me and so on. And then I remembered the situations that made me react as a child in thinking that way.
Mhm.
And then I could really break them down to just that night my father said something to me which felt awful or something. And then I could really see, like, okay, that's all. Like, he
Mhm.
just said something that was not pleasant for me, and the rest is everything that turned out to be a story or an interpretation.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
I don't have this interpretation anymore.
Yep, yep, yep.
And the other thing is that then I was like continuing with experimenting, I mean, about my father. And the only sentence that really like provoked something in me was he's dead and I can't share things with him anymore. And then this made me cry. But actually, it felt like very beautiful because I
Hmm.
could like really appreciate that there was this feeling of love or wanting to share something with this person. And that was not something painful. I don't know. It
Mm.
was rather like, and then I asked myself, like, is that actually true? I mean, can't I tell him in a way anyway? I mean, I could do
You
that
could,
anyway.
yes. Yeah, it doesn't matter
So,
that he's not there, or that he's dead. Yeah.
but it was very interesting because there were also other things that I remembered. For example, I don't really want to go too much into detail because it was like the most horrible thing I ever experienced, I think. But it was more or less that I was about 25 and I got very drunk and I didn't remember that I took someone home to my apartment and this person got like very abusive and even violent. And then I defended myself and wanted to throw this person out of my apartment. But in the last second, I kind of changed my mind and said to this person, sit down in my kitchen. And then I explained to this person why it's not okay to treat people like this or something. But I really forgot this like for many years. And then, I mean, I think when I was 30 or something, I remembered that situation and I found like really the name for what it was, but I had not thought about it as the thing that it was because probably I didn't want to see myself as a victim. And on the
Hmm.
other hand, I thought like, yeah, but it was my fault because I got so drunk or something. And that is something like, okay, I could say that the only thing that I can notice about this thing when I remember it is that, wow, okay, back then, um, something horrible happened to me and I didn't have any boundaries. And I
Mm.
thought it's my turn to explain to this person why you should not do that. Or it was like, but I think like after having understood what had happened, that was just like a clear reminder for me how important it is to have your boundaries and to name things the way they are and not
Mm.
like I don't know, like yeah, but it's I would say that that was what like one of the most horrible things that happened to me because also I had some injuries and things like that that made me remember this situation for months after it happened.
Hmm.
But the interesting thing was like looking back to into it now, it was just like okay, that thing happened and not much more actually.
Mm.
So it was not,
Yes.
I mean, uh, yeah, I mean, okay, I can have an interpretation of what was my problem back then or what was lacking or whatever, but even that is just like, yeah, okay, it was like that back then.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
that was kind of interesting, but then also I thought like, why am I searching for something anyway now? I mean, okay, I
Yep.
was maybe a bit curious, but then I think you told me before, like, don't make it something that you have to accomplish or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, I would not like interpret it as now all of my triggers are gone and it's all
Yeah. Yeah.
solved or
Yeah.
anything because I know
That's a
it's
big
not
trap, that one. Yeah.
because there are sometimes still like things that make
Sure.
me react strongly, but then I thought, but I don't have to search for those things. I mean,
That's right. They turn up. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can just take
Yeah.
care of them when they turn up and yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that because you were talking about this before, those shifts feel so subtle that after a while it can happen that you think, but was there something happening anyway? Or
Yeah.
should
Yeah.
I do something now to,
Yeah. Exactly. Well, that's one of the traps with the fetters,
yeah.
because you're doing those things, you keep looking. And
Hmm.
here's an interesting one. I'll say this with full confidence, even though I don't know it's actually true. But
Hmm.
if you look, you'll find.
Hmm.
And if that entertains you, fine, go ahead and keep looking and
Hmm.
keep finding and keep fixing. But quite frankly, here,
Hmm.
when it turns up, it's not worth bothering. It's not worth the effort to go
Hmm.
looking for what's behind it if it doesn't happen regularly. If it's not a repeating pattern, if it's a repeating pattern, that's a different story. But if it's a
Huh.
one-off and it comes up, well, you don't need to fix everything. But
Huh.
if you keep looking, you'll keep finding stuff to fix.
But the interesting thing is that this exercise made me see once more that actually the things that trigger reactions in me are the stories and not the
Yes.
facts.
Yeah.
Like that was like very interesting to see because it does happen to me that I get entangled in
Cool.
stories and that it makes me feel horrible. And but yeah, but I mean if I just formulate clearly, okay, this happened, that happened, that's happening now, then it is like really okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, exactly.
But
So what?
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds good to me. I like the way you explain that. Yeah. The thing that a lot of a big one with especially fetters 4 and 5, what the exercises that that I guess are most commonly used with those things what the exercises intend for you to discover is that there's no such thing as desire or
Hmm.
or aversion or ill
Hmm.
will or however you want to put it. That they don't reside in the body in the form, right? We just get triggered and sensations, and then we
Hmm.
stories turn up that give it meaning, and that's where the desire
Hmm.
is. Without the story, desire is just a sensation.
Hmm. And on top of that sensation would be maybe the label pleasant, unpleasant or something,
Yeah,
right?
well, that's the beginning of the stories,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So when somebody says, "How have you been?" and I say good, in a way, what I'm saying is I can't remember anything bad. I can't remember any unpleasantness that happened.
But isn't it because you also don't judge? You don't
Well,
have this judgment like that was bad and that was good and I like that and I don't like that.
well, it's hollow if I
Mm.
say that about something, but I do say things are good and
Mm.
bad. Not
Yeah.
when I say that, I'm not really saying that it's an inherent characteristic of the whatever I'm describing. What I'm
Mm.
saying is that was a pleasant or unpleasant experience
Mm.
that I had. So that the pleasant experiences I call good.
Mm.
It's not. I'm not saying that that the experience has any existence independent of me, and I'm not saying that it has a characteristic that I would call good. I'm
Mm.
just saying I had a pleasant reaction to whatever went on. Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, it almost sounds arrogant to say I don't judge. I don't know. Well, I do judge. I do judge. It
Mm.
does. I see it. But I hold it lightly. When I see it happening, it doesn't. I don't have an unpleasant experience reaction to that. But yeah, I guess all the time I'm saying I like that. I don't like that, or
Mm.
or a version of that. That's good. That's not so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then that's just like I don't know how your system responds to certain things. Like, I mean, liking something or not so much, maybe. Like, I mean, we all have maybe habits of eating, or for
Yes. Yeah.
example, and that's, I mean, even if you see through the eye, it doesn't mean that there are no preferences of
Of course
your
not. No, of course not. Yeah.
body or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still much prefer chocolate ice cream to spinach. Mm. Well, thanks, Leonard. Good
Thank
stuff.
you.
See, I judge that you're still on the track. It's all good. I like what I hear in terms of how that will impact you and what is happening. I approve. So there's a judgment. Yeah. When I think about it, it's crazy, isn't it? But there you go.
I just had a strange, I don't want to say irritation, but it's like, what does that mean being on the track? And
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah,
there was like a
exactly.
little moment, and um, am I searching for that? I mean, that you tell me that I'm on the track or something, or is it
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
yes,
exactly.
I'm
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
track still or something? I mean,
yeah.
yeah, that's also kind of, I mean, um, something that I also noticed a bit later. I mean, actually, that's also maybe a bit the reason why I didn't show up here for a while. That I had noticed that there was like a little, yeah, wanted to say a little part of me, maybe, that was like thinking sometimes about like, what am I going to say, Like,
Yeah.
and then I was wondering, like, am I attending these meetings in order to say something very clever or please to anyone or yeah. And I just wanted to be clear about that, I'm not doing it for that. So
Yeah. Never thought for a moment that you were. Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky one, you know. So I want to say people, which and I encourage that some people come to the meeting just to be in the meeting. They just come for the company, or they come for the good feelings that they get out of it, or whatever it is, you know. Like people, you don't have to come with a purpose in mind, you know. If you just decide to come, or you just don't, that's all right. By the way, yeah. David wants to know what book you're reading on the fetters. Christine Michelberger's one, is it?
Yeah, yeah, I'm going to post it. I just have to search for the correct title. Just a
Hmm.
second.
She's got a couple of books out actually. This cat. Oh, can you see this cat? She belongs to my daughter-in-law, and we're looking. My wife and I are looking after them while my son and his wife are overseas. And this cat, if I come in and try and pet it, it runs away. It doesn't like me, right? But when I come in to do these meetings, it comes up here and it starts hassling me for me to pet it and rub its head and so on. But it's only on its terms. I can't go into it and do it, or otherwise it just runs away. Yeah, it's a weird one. Yeah. So how have you been, David?
Hi, Vince. Yeah, actually, I was thinking about the same thing because I have a cat and it always asks me to pet it. It always wants me to cuddle it, to pet it. And it triggers something here. I don't know why. I know that it's automatic and it's just instinct. But
Oh, but
like
it's a great.
on my
It's
side,
yeah.
on my side, it makes me feel when I am like busy doing other stuff and she wants me to pet it and I can't do it, it triggers something and like something appears here and like, oh yeah, you should care for it, you should pet it, you should attend
Okay,
to
yeah.
its needs. And yeah, it's always the same stuff. It's become easier to stay with all these stories that appear and to just see them as appearance. And so I wanted to ask you something else today. Because I started this new job and it's like a night job and it's so I have long hours. I work like in a hotel as a night porter, night concierge. And so I have long hours, long stretches of time in which when I have nothing to do. And so I've been like curious about looking into perception and like the vision, visual perceptions and what is there is this separation between what is here and what is there, and there is space between apparently, and there is like it's like a link, a connection that gets created between this and something that appears to be over there. I can kind of see that all this stuff, like the separation, the space, the distance, is not in the visual field itself, because in the visual
Yeah.
field there is only shape and color, and shape and color are not separated. And I also have expectations because I have read and I've listened to people talk about the sixth feather. And so that it can happen sometimes that suddenly everything flattens
Can
and
be, yeah.
is perceived as just a flat surface and like the depth perception disappear. And so maybe I have some expectations regarding that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
trying to do is trying to see what space really is, what this distance feeling really is, what this separation and duality between this and everything else is, and
Mm,
it's I can see that it's a story, but it's a story that is very automatic and quick and
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
feels very strong here, and yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure about how to approach this
Right.
inquiry.
Yeah. Well, you learn to do that around about 2 years of age, and you've been
Mm.
practicing ever since. So of course, it's a tricky one. Do you know that you can see the blood vessels in your own eyes if you're under the right conditions?
Yeah, I can also see like little particles floating and
Yeah. Well, when if you got a bright light shining in your eye, you would be
uh,
able to see the cobweb
uh,
shape of all of the veins in your eyes. But you learn as a baby that there's zero value in seeing that, so your brain just ignores it. And so you go, well, I'm not seeing it. I mean, I'm looking now and I can't see it in my eyes. But I do remember when a doctor shone a bright light in my eye, I could see it quite clearly. And he told me that. He said, your brain just ignores it because it's of no value to see it. It's like you actually also have a blind spot in your eye, and you don't even know that because you constantly shift so that you never actually experience that blind spot. Well, it's the same thing with you with seeing stuff. It's the story that gets added to it that says that wall is over there. The actual experience of the wall without the story would be the same. Everything is in just two dimensions. But here's a trick. It's a lot easier to experience that one if you use sound than if you use sight. Sight is much more complex than sound. So when you are on the job and you want to play around with this, you've got time to do it. Listen for what you're hearing. No matter where you are, there'll be a sound. You know, especially if you're in a hotel, there'll be a hum probably, but you'll be able to hear sounds. And what you uh, what you want to do is well, firstly, you start with the story that says the sound arrives to your ears as vibrating air. And it depends on how fast the vibration is, whether it's a high pitched sound or a low sound. But regardless, it's a vibration, and it vibrates inner ear stuff. The eardrums vibrate, and then the little bones vibrate, and what they do is they create a nerve impulse, and that nerve impulse travels up into the brain, into the hearing center, and then the hearing center converts that into the experience of sound. And that's when the sound occurs. It occurs in your brain. But then your brain does something very, very tricky. It uses two ears to triangulate where the sound came from, how far away it is, and then your experience will tell you, oh, that's the sound of a car going past. That's the sound of air conditioner. That's the sound, your
yeah.
brain will come up with a story about what the sound is and where it's coming from. But
I,
you can much more easily experience that the sound is occurring in your head than you can with experiencing the sight is in your head.
yeah, I feel like the spatial component of both the visual experience or the sound, the hearing experience is the strongest, is the stronger one. It's when I close my eyes and I hear sounds, I can see that there is a story attached to to this sound and it's just a story. But the spatial component of that story, like that sound is over there, that sound is on the right, that sound is on the left, that sound is far away, that sound is closer. This spatial component, this part of the story that talks about where this sound is more hard to see as separated from the sound because it feels so
Yeah, it
so
happened very quickly,
true,
doesn't it?
so true, so quick and true that there is a part of me that says, yeah, but that sound is over there, and it's true, it's over there,
Mm.
or this
So
sound is closer.
yeah, so you can just separate out the experience of the sound and the stories, and you get better and better at doing that with practice. But with when you can experience that the sound is happening inside your head,
Mm,
here's a tricky one, but a very big one, and that is you can experience that you are entirely that sound. It's not a sound happening to you. It's not a sound happening in your brain. I'm talking about the experience of
mm,
it,
yeah.
right? The scientific explanation or the biological explanation would be that it's happening in your brain, but your experience of it, if you're fully involved in the physical experience of that sense organ before the stories turn up, then you are the sound. And if you can get into that, you will feel the whole body vibrate in synchronously with the sound.
I can see that in as the sound while it happens, it's what is here, and so yeah, it's just this sound happening, and so it's me. It's like
Yes.
the part of this particular point of view that is happening right now, and so this
Mm,
particular point of view that comprehends everything is me. So
mm.
I can say it like that, but I'm not sure this is what you're
Yeah,
telling me.
yeah, it's there. That's it. Now, here's one you can, and then you can, so play with both of the senses, but with the sight sense, the sense of seeing, you can isolate various aspects of that one. And so you can say there is the act of seeing happening, right? So then it becomes irrelevant what you're seeing or who is seeing. It becomes the act of seeing is all you are. You are the act of seeing, right? But then you can shift your focus to what you are seeing, and then you become what you are seeing. Now, it's a tricky
Uh,
one. So let's say you're looking at that wall in front of you,
mm,
right? There is the recognition that the experience of what you're calling a wall is happening inside you,
mm, mm,
and
mm,
you are that, right? So there is no separation. It is you. You are your experience, which is apparently related to
yeah.
something external to you, but it's irrelevant that it is that that's an apparent reality, that it's separate from you. If you are seeing it, it is you. You are it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually when the moment I have looked at that in this way, is when I had like very brief glimpses of none, because like seeing as this is just seen in this way because of all the conditioning that it's here, and so this is like this specific point of view that comprehends everything, and it's a consequence of all the conditioning that is here. So this is seen like this, only here, but it's not limited to what it's here. It comprehends everything, and there
Mm,
is literally no distinction between this and that in this regard, because this or that. Everything is perceived like it is because of the same conditioning. So it's all
mm,
part of the same conditioning here,
hmm.
there, and it's everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's the space part that I find a little bit tricky, because like with time, it's easier to see it as just an appearance, just a story, an idea. With space is a little bit harder to see it through, uh, because it's connected with like the body in space, this body operating in space and moving in space, and the here there, and I feel like it's also connected with, obviously, with the feeling of separation. So with separation come a lot of stuff, like fear of what is outside, and the relationship between the subject and the object, and all the stuff. It comes with space, with this illusion of being separated from everything by space. I feel like space is like the the knot, the that needs to be seen through
Mm.
in order to this for this to become more clear, more what it is, more. I feel like space is central, like this idea of space. I'm not.
Have you ever sat in a car at the lights, and the car in the lane next to you starts to move slowly forward, and you have the distinct impression that you're going backwards?
Yeah, yeah, it happens on a train a lot when there is another train on the side.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You
it's
can see
relative.
how
Well,
the physical senses don't know how to handle that immediately. Once you realize what's going on, the story turns up that tells you what's
mm,
going on, and then all of a sudden your physical experience is different. So when you realize that the car next to you or the train next to you is moving forward, that you had the impression that you were moving backwards is an illusion. And all of a sudden your physical experience changes because of the recognition that an illusion was operating. Right? So you
yeah,
don't feel like you're going backwards anymore. You recognize that the thing next to you is moving forward. And all of a sudden that's what you're experiencing, that it's moving forward and you're still. Right? So it's the same thing with the sense of space.
mm,
Right? Now the only now the whole reason for all of this stuff, right? So the whole reason for the sixth sense, the sixth fetter stuff, is for you to realize that we are living inside a lot of illusions.
mm,
Now we don't want that 2D effect to be constant. You couldn't drive your car. You'd have accidents. You wouldn't know how far to the wall, or space would cease to exist for you in that way if you saw things only in 2 dimensions. So it's not a practical thing for you to do. The only reason to do it is to realize that we actually live inside of a whole lot of illusions, and to then appreciate the existence of direct experience. or really the opposite of that, to realize the existence of the stories that we are constantly using to give things meaning. Now, in both cases, we're releasing the trap. We're opening the cage door, if you like, whatever metaphor you want to use to say. We can be freed from the idea that things are the way we think they are. See, it's easy. So this is such an obvious one for me that I just find it a bit trickier to share with people how it's obvious that if you're experiencing the vision of a wall, that's an experience that's happening inside you.
Yeah.
So it is you. It's your experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, we don't know what's actually out there. We call it a wall. It looks like a wall to us. But if there was a a, a cricket next to you looking at the wall, an insect, right, it's not going to see what you see. It's going to see it in the ultraviolet spectrum. So who's right? What you see or what the cricket sees? Or the bird or the dog or the alien, the fish? You know, everybody sees it according to their own biology. It's so who's to say what's right? You think,
More than the wall, it's the distance between this body and the wall that is, I feel, is
yeah.
central.
Okay, so all right, that yeah, so that brings up something too, and that is there's a paradox, right? That we can say the distance between you and that wall, as in your experience now, let's be very clear about that. In your current experiencing, that distance is imagined, right? You experience the wall inside your body, in your brain, and stories give it meaning, but the included in the stories of meaning are the distance, right? So in your experience, that's the case. Yet you can get a tape measure out and you can measure how far away it is.
Yeah, that's the part. That's the
But
hard
no,
part, I
no,
think.
that's yeah, that kind of is the part, but it isn't the part. But you see, that's a tricky one, isn't it? So when you look at, okay, I'm measuring it. What is your experience of measuring it? Your experience is the tape
Yeah,
measure.
it's still here. Yeah, it's still
Yeah,
inside
yeah.
the vision.
So the
Yeah,
experience itself is still happening inside. That's right.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But we say, oh no, the tape measure said 5.0. Whatever is that feet or
yeah,
meters. It doesn't matter whether it's feet or meters, but
yeah.
the tape measure says that. So therefore it's 5 meters away. Well, that's a story, isn't it? It's a convenient story. It's a useful story.
The fact that makes it more believable in the story is that if I measure with a tape and it's 5 meters, and I give the tape to someone else and he measures it's still 5 meters. It feels like it's 5 meters because it has like 2 points of
Yeah,
data,
yeah,
like two
exactly. Yeah,
independent measurements, and so it must be really 5 meters outside.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And for a whole lot of things, that's perfectly reasonable. If you're measuring how big the floor is to build a floor, or you're measuring the wall to buy paint or whatever, it's all perfectly reasonable. And of course, that's going to continue to be your experience. You don't want to be turning everything into two-dimensional. You just want to know that there is the the pervasiveness of stories. That's what it's about. It's just showing you it's also showing you how useful they are, but it's also showing you how strong they are, how our actual experience is related to the stories. So if I say to you that a large proportion of the population of people on this earth think they're relating to actual physical things that are in their world, but they're not. They're actually relating to their ideas about those physical things. Do you get that all of politics relates to ideas about things? Do
Yeah.
you get that all economic stuff relates to ideas about things?
Yeah, that is very clear. It's the science. And
Yeah,
sometimes it amazes me that science, when you look at it, it's just this big shared story that really never touches what it is, but still makes it possible to build rockets and
absolutely.
spaceships.
Yes, yeah. So it has.
Even though
Yeah,
it's just a shared, it's just a convention. It's a
yeah,
very big convention, but it
yeah.
still can like make it possible to build like rockets and
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is what happens once we recognize that the world we live in, the world we used to live in before waking up was almost entirely conceptual. Then we can get freed from that trap. Then we discover that it's actually stories all the way down, and that can be very useful. So, for example, here's a real classic one. This is one that I've actually experienced myself. Given that the self is a bunch of stories I've got about Vince, and that the illusion of self comes into play when I react to some of those stories, it seems perfectly reasonable to me that I can simply write a new chapter and insert it into those stories about Vince. And I actually did that once when I was asked to give a eulogy, and my initial reaction was I couldn't do it. It was a dear friend, and I knew I was going to break up and be unable to do a coherent thing. So my immediate reaction was no, I can't do that. And then I wrote a chapter metaphorically about Vince being able to do that eulogy, and I went and did the eulogy, and it was fine. I still broke up, but that was no problems. Yeah. So it was like you can just insert a chapter when you recognize that who you think you are is a bunch of stories that you react to. You could write a chapter that says I'm awake and insert it, and then respond to that. It sounds a bit fake, but it's not. It's real. I mean, obviously, you can't write a chapter that says you can fly like a bird. So there are limitations to that, of course. You can't become the fastest runner on the planet. Well, maybe you can, but most likely not. Yeah.
yeah, you can if you think about it, you can also write whatever you want, also like a story about how you can fly like a bird. It's just that it's a story that it's not shared, that it's not you can't use it to communicate, or it's just
Hmm.
but it's not different from other stories. Like
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
it's just that it's not shared. Mm. There is a story that says, yeah, but science is real, and but it's just a story, I know, and it's about, it's always about being accepted because these stories are shared, and so you are supposed to believe in these stories in order to participate in human society. And so, like, believing in these stories is also about being accepted and being not being rejected
Hmm.
as a fool, as a, yeah,
But it's never about you being accepted or rejected. It's always about you feeling.
yeah, feeling rejected, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everything. It's like everything always comes
Yeah.
back to
Yeah.
this experience here and
Yeah.
this. Yeah,
And isn't it funny how if you feel not accepted, that is you projecting a story that
yeah,
you already know about out onto somebody else and
yeah,
then saying that they're not accepting me. Yeah.
yeah,
And we do
yeah.
this so quickly and so automatically, and all the time we do this. It's crazy, isn't it? I know nothing, yet I behave like I know everything. I know how to drive a car, I know how to walk, I know how to digest my food, I know how to do anything that I can do, I know how to do, but I don't know anything. And they're both
Yeah.
true. They're both absolutely true.
Even the more abstract stuff, like the law of science and all this, it all comes down to this direct experience here. You know, it's like it can never be escaped because it comprehends everything. It includes everything. So
Yes.
you really never experience something that it's outside or of this direct experience because everything that is experienced it appears here. So
Mm,
there is never there is nothing outside, and so there is no outside of it because there is nothing outside of it, and so there is no outside. Even the idea of something being outside of it, it's
mm.
inside this. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm still reacting to Pam asking me how my day was, and I'm, yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? But it's like I, I, I have to say the majority of my day today has disappeared. It's like it's 4 minutes past midnight here now, and I would have to work to remember anything that happened during the day today. I'd have to put effort into recalling. But without doing that, it's like it's gone. It's just
it's such a
disappeared.
simple question, but it implies so much, so many
Yes.
things. How was your day? There is a me, there is a day, there is a me that operates
All of
through
that.
the
Yeah,
day,
yeah,
there is time, there is.
yeah,
It's like an explosion of stories. Like, how
yeah,
was your
yeah.
day?
Yeah. But it's like I'm imagining, and this is another story, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
I'm I'm
immediately.
imagining that we accumulate a lifetime of stuff that we remember to create a self.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that when like today, when today is gone, it's like obviously I don't exist. I would need my history of the day in order to exist. Are we anything more than our history combined in the old way of looking at things?
If you take away memory, there is really no way of creating these stories because, like, even the memory of 1 second ago, 2 seconds ago, it's already a memory. And so, if you take away memories, there is really no way of creating all these stories and all
Yeah,
this. And so, yeah, and memories, they can only happen here. They can only happen in this infinite present
yeah,
moment. And so it's just everything is created, continually created and recreated and copy pasted. Like, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, there's an old biological uh, story, well, description apparently, that says if we get a surge of a hormone in the body, that it generally lasts about 90 seconds before it fades away. And so we have to repeat the trigger to keep it there. It has to be repeated again and again and again to keep it there. So people that are feeling shitty for ages seem to be repeating a trigger. Yeah. Thanks, Leonard. Mm.
It's this shared exercise, like to ask someone, how was your day? And you're replying and asking you how was your day too. And so it's just to share these stories and feel closer by doing that and
Hmm.
feel like we are in the same reality, we share the same basic knowledge and the same way of living, and it's just an exercise to feel closer one each other. And it's that. If you look at it like that, it makes sense. If you really go into the story, it stop making sense. It's just going away in stories. But
Mm.
it's the sharing part of answering that question, that it's here now, always here
Yeah.
now. It's the sharing. Mhm. Thank
I
you so
don't think
much.
I will ever ask anyone again how their day was. I don't think I will
No,
ever
it's
do that.
lovely. It's lovely when you see it for what it is. It's lovely because you
Well,
see it with the love from
yes,
where that question comes from. Yeah.
it's interesting though, because just recently, like in the last 24 hours, I've noticed that I started putting emphasis on words that were used, like true story. And there was no judgment, I don't think. There might have been, but I actually heard a young lady refer to her sister as a stupid fucking bitch. And I thought, well, I know those are just words, but it stuck in my mind. And I asked the older sister, I said, what exactly do you mean by that expression? Stupid fucking bitch. What exactly do you mean? Just like, and I was genuinely curious. And then, you know, it came up several times just, and even when I was talking to the younger sister about it the next day, she made a comment about her sister being hateful. And I said, well, uh, what do you mean by hateful? What do you really mean? Do you really mean full of hate? Or do you, uh, but for some reason in the last 12 hours or so, that has really come to my mind about the common things that we say or people say, common everyday things. And then you kind of say, okay, wait a minute, what do you really mean? And so it's been very obvious, but it's funny because the reason that I actually, if I could put it in context of some sort, the reason that I actually said that to you is like a greeting, and of course there's all that conditioning for
Yes.
politeness and that sort of thing. It's like there was a greeting, like, oh, how was your day? Well, of course, I genuinely, lovingly am concerned about how your day. However, we had that conversation before because I think I said to you one time, how are you doing? And you went, good. And within a matter of seconds, you said, of course, I'm always going to say that I'm good. And I thought, yeah, so why do we go through these little pleasantries? Like, um, and I guess, so, and that's exactly why it was more like a greeting. I guess like in
Yes.
Australia,
Yeah.
and I was reading something recently about this because in Australia they say good day, right? Or good day, because that actually is not asking anyone anything. It's not asking to think about
Mm.
anything. It's just a greeting. So I think some people, it's probably the same thing when they say namaste or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think there's perhaps it's rewiring my conditioning now. It's like to
Ah,
think of,
no, I don't want to. I don't want to do that to you, Pam. Yeah, really. No, I mean, I was being a bit pedantic about all of that. I mean, people say that to me all the time, and I just say good,
yeah,
So I do
yeah, yeah,
appreciate it as a greeting.
yeah,
It's not, and I wouldn't want you to stop for that reason because I like that
yeah.
you inquire. Yeah.
I notice here where I live, of course, I'm in the Bible Belt, of Louisiana, of America, but where I live, a common thing that people will say, it is the Bible Belt, and they'll say, blessings, like it's more of that type of a thing.
Mm.
And I know what they mean by that. So it's just interesting how different things, but well, and not just that, but just consciously, I was trying to think of the other example about that because, like after this whole thing about the stupid fucking bitch, then the next one, I mean, something else came up at a certain point, and I said, okay, so what exactly, are you saying? And then people will stop and think, well, what are they really saying? I don't know. It's just that it seems so funny to me now, and it's like right in my face. Everything that comes out of the mouth,
Mm.
how much of it is just rote language?
Yes,
Just
yeah. And it'll stand out for you for quite a while until you relax again. Yeah.
yeah. I think one of the things that's come from noticing myself, like if I happen to I try to hide my self view on these so I'm not looking. I don't like looking at myself, but like if I watch one of the meetings come back and I'm on there, it's like, and I'm looking at it, it is a two-dimensional thing. So I kind of like that because it's an experience. But some of the feedback that I get from that is realizing um, how much the conditioning is there is just to be polite or
Yeah.
try to be comforting. Of course,
Yeah.
the people pleasing comes out. Um, the discomfort about um, just being there. The discomfort is
Yeah. Yeah.
very,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and yeah. So
The
it's
ju
kind of
the judgment when you look at yourself.
uh, well, of course, the comfort in that is, well, that's not who I am. That's
Yes.
not.
Yeah.
I mean that has become very. That's not. That's not. And having the compassion for that. This is just life. I mean, really getting that view, that extended view of like being an observer of just not even observer, but just
Yeah.
it's like Yeah. Okay. So there's not anybody doing anything. It's just like what's happening, and having a lot of compassion for all the, I mean, that's still kind of mind boggling. It's still taken, a little time for this brain to work around that. But yeah. But anyway, a nice little context on that. So uh, that's it.
Good. Thanks, Pam. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll probably say goodbye. So I'll let you go, whatever. And I'll go, and I'm going to say goodbye so I can go on with my day now.
Okay. Yeah.
Bye.
Good. All right. Yeah, I'm going to
Bye.
go to bed fairly soon as well. Yeah. Thanks, Pam.
Yeah, it gives you like dizziness when you think about how many stories are continually spawned, and it's non-stop. It's when you
Yep.
interact with other people, it's and so many things are taken for granted and are just implied, and it's so fast. Like every
Yep.
every
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
idea, stories, labels all the time. So fast, so fast.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. The human mind is faster than the
Yeah,
computer.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
quick, so fast.
And have you noticed that always when suffering turns up, there are stories about me?
Yeah, yeah, they accelerate when you
Yeah.
suffer. These stories get even more quick,
Yeah.
more fast, more.
They have a life of their own, don't they? They seem to take off. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's an
Mm.
ocean of stories. Yeah. And sometimes it gets more turbulent and more.
Yeah. And in the beginning, we kind of look at stories and we go, well, that's a reasonable story or that's an unreasonable story. Like you can go, well, I mean, for both you guys, stories of shame. What a ridiculous story they are. Absolutely ridiculous. Yet they have a real effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as soon as we realize that we are responding to a story that, and now, even just because that story turns up in this mind doesn't mean it's me. So if we recognize that thoughts happen as a result of the flavor of thoughts happening as a result of conditioning, of habit, and being conditioned in the first place, right? The nature of it, that came from outside of us. But yet, because they happen to me, I tend to give them more authority. And so it's easier to get sucked into them. But when we can appreciate that the the most adaptive response to a thought story in the beginning is to simply recognize that a story has turned up and recognize also that what it is about is somewhat irrelevant.
Like even right now, when you say, yeah, but st these are stories, but the consequences are real, immediately a new story appears and says, oh, so these stories are real, so I must control them and manage them because the consequences are real. So, and so a new story
Yeah,
is
yeah,
being created in which I have to control the stories and the
yeah,
content of the stories because the consequences are real. So, but even the
yeah,
fact that when you say the consequences are real, that is also a story. There is this, the stories are like here and they are floating and they are appearing and disappearing and so quick. So many of them appear and disappear. And then there is the another all the perception level, the immediate, the direct level that never really touches all these stories, and that is also here all the time. And so, even if the consequences seem to be real of these stories, they are still happening in the direct experience, and there are also new stories being created about these experiences and these consequences, and so it never stops being like this. These stories
Mm.
will always be there, and there will always be also this direct experience that is separated from these stories.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that we're after is that separation. So if you recognize that the story, the two aspects of the story, that the one that the what the story is about, the content of the story, is our has been our captor, has been what's shaped our experience, but we are not wanting to focus on the content of the story. We want to shift our focus to the fact that a story has turned up and recognize that the consequences of the story will appear in our bodies. So what we
Yeah.
experience physically is our response to that story. But when we're not focused on the content of the story, but the response to the story, the two things get separated. So we have the story and we have the sensations that are a response to the story. And we can
Mm.
see that those sensations are a response to the story, that the sensations themselves aren't actually connected to the story. The sensation itself is just a sensation. It contains no information and no directions. So
I don't
what?
know why this
Yeah, go on.
triggering me is triggering some reaction in the body right now. Must be the fact that like this thing that you just said, that the story they cause a sensation in the body to appear. So there is causation, apparent causation,
All
apparent.
right. So let's stop there and examine that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
You're saying something that's another story. You're saying that the story caused the sensation.
I
Now,
can see that this is another story,
yeah, yeah.
but
So if we look at
the,
what actually happens, we'll
yeah,
say that your belief about the story is what caused the reaction, not the story itself. A story about the story is what caused the reaction.
yeah, that is something that I've been trying to see through for a long time now. Where is the connection between a belief and an apparent sensation in the body? Even the sensation is, there is a component of it that it's in the mind. But how are they connected?
Well,
How can
that's
they
that's
cause each other?
mm.
That is something that I can't like comprehend or
Okay. So if I ask you,
work through.
what is a belief? How can you describe can you tell me the
Is
characteristics of a belief?
a
Right, so
thought
firstly, it's a story, but what's special about it that makes it a
is
belief?
a thought about something being the case or not, something
Yeah,
being
there you
true
go.
or
Okay, so
false.
you got it. So let me rephrase what you just said. You've got a story about something, and if it's a belief, there's another story about that story that says it's true.
Yeah.
right? So a belief isn't an isolated story. It's a story with another story that says the first story is true.
But how can that become or cause, or where is the passage from this thought about something being true or not to the sensation in the body? It's that passage, that
Mm.
connection, that link
Yeah, so that's where you
that I
go
can't quite
from a
see.
nothing to a something, right?
Yeah, from a
You're actually
thought to a physical
to a
sensation.
sensation, yeah. So the thought, you can't bottle a thought, can you? You can't isolate it, and it's nothing actual physically
No,
in a
it's
thought, you
just a
know.
voice or something that.
Yeah, whatever form
Yeah,
the
it's
thought
not
takes.
physical.
Yeah,
It doesn't feel
yeah,
physical.
yeah. But the connection to a sensation is a creation, and that creation is the creation of a self. Well, a story about a self, of course, or a creation of a self in that other stories that say it's happening to me. It's very
Mm.
tricky when we start to look at it closer and closer. It gets quite paradoxical. It's quite hard to do. So if I believe something, I have a response, a physical response to that what I believe. What is the connection between the physical and the not physical, between the sensation and the story?
The answer I came up with, because I've looked into this many times, because it comes up again and again. The answer I came up with is that without these stories, even the physical sensation is just there, and there are no questions about it. And and there's this word conditioning that comes up, but this is already into the story. Like, conditioning is that the body is used to have some reaction when some beliefs appear, and so but this is already into the story. And so the answer is that without these stories, the feeling is just what it is, and there is no, it's just what it is.
Yeah,
It's already there,
but
and it's
it's
already
true.
the case. And yeah, and
It's
this need to find an answer, to find an explanation, to know is some selfing happening. It's wanting to control and wanting to. It's part of the
Yeah,
self, you know.
whatever. Yeah. So there are a whole lot of other stories about me, and the reason that there is a reaction to a story has got to do with those other stories that get triggered.
Mm-mm-mm.
But when you look for that connection, that's a really good question. It had me going there for a minute because I was looking for a connection, but I'm now realizing there's no connection. There's no actual connection. We have a story and we have a sensation, and the sensation, or the sensations, the experience of the feelings seem to be directly related to the story. And they are directly related to the story, but there's not an actual connection. That's what we're wanting to realize with this whole thing.
I'm trying to think about some metaphor, like using the natural world. Uh, it's like something about the butterfly effect, or something like when it rains, there are also clouds in the sky, or when it rains, there is also thing getting wet, but it's not like one thing causes the other. It's that they appear in the same circumstances, and they appear
Mm.
seemingly together, but I can't quite come up with some
Yeah,
fitting
well,
metaphor.
it's a tricky one, isn't
It's
it?
it, it's
Yeah.
something that you can see it happen in nature all the
Yep.
time. Like
I've seen rain with no clouds, and I've seen
the
clouds with
tree
no
makes
rain.
yeah, the tree makes a fruit, but it's not like that it causes a fruit to happen. It's just that
Mm.
its nature causes the fruit to happen. And so it's not it's everything is connected. So
Yes, yeah,
the tree is not isolated, and the fruit is not isolated, but also the tree is not isolated because it grows up in an environment, and that environment is not isolated, and so everything
yeah.
is. So
So
this
nothing is
sensation that
isolated, really, is it?
appears, it's not only about the story, it's about everything. This
Mm.
sensation that appears in the body is about
Yeah,
everything. It's not
yeah,
only about the story. The story might be a part or not, but it's this everything expressing
yeah,
as
yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
particular feeling,
So the saying
giving
correlation,
all the circumstances,
yeah,
giving everything else, giving even back to the leaf the leaf beneath the dinosaur leg
yeah,
a
everything,
million
yeah,
years ago. Yeah, it's mind blowing,
yep, for
but
sure, yeah. So if you think
it's just the
correlation
concept.
does not mean causation,
Yeah, it's just this everything expressing as this feeling in the body in that
yeah,
particular way and moment, and but it's
yeah,
not really about the story is part of this appearing.
yeah,
They just appear together, but
yeah,
they don't do not cause each other because they are just appearing in this infinite movement, single
yeah.
movement.
So when we
And
see
yeah, they
through
are
the
not separated.
story,
Even the
we,
story and the
yeah,
sensation, they are not separated from everything else.
exactly,
So
yeah,
it's everything else. It's
yeah.
everything happening.
So in the beginning, we can have a certain reaction to a story, and then later on the same story, and we don't have that reaction. So obviously
We
the story didn't cause the reaction in the first place. It was something else. So we don't
we
need an
create.
explanation.
There is this story about a correlation, a causation being there because we only see the last things that happened, and the
Yeah,
things that are very
yeah,
close to us and immediate and now, but they are connected to everything. So
yeah,
we only see those two particular things, the sensation in the body and the story, and
yeah,
so
yeah.
we
And we
create this story
jump
about
to
them being
conclusions.
connected. But
Yeah,
yeah, we create an equation. We create a math equation about these two details of this
yeah,
everything. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah. Good one. Well, thank you, David.
Thank you, Vince. Awesome as always. Thank
Well, I'm going to go to bed now. So thank you
you.
both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ciao. Good
Ciao.
day.